It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders. Alan, what's going on?
Victory Monday.
Victory Monday.
Just means a lot of writing for me. Got a lot, little cat typewriter meme going on today. And it's pretty much it.
Yeah. We were talking before we started recording here and discussing what direction we wanted to go with things. And it was like, man, we could go small picture, we could go big picture. And I think we're going to do a little bit of both. Before we get into this, though, I do want to give a shout out. You got a really good comment that we think could take an entire episode to cover. So we're going to save this, but I do want to give a shout out to James Jennings for the comment that he sent you in the discussion that he provided us with that we certainly will use for a topic. It's just that the discourse that's there with Kenny Pickett, which is really what this is going to be about, is always going to be there for us. I think we should focus on this game against the Packers, the loss of Kwon Alexander, bigger picture stuff. So we will get to that. Wanted to give James a shout out because obviously he's a viewer / listener of the show, and we obviously appreciate that. But Alan, I want to talk about
word. Like there are so many podcasts that are also on video. Why don't we have a word that means viewers and listeners? Like there's 17,000 podcasts in this world, and no one has come up with the ability to fill this need.
I don't know. I'm like sitting here trying to think of it.
We need one.
I guess you could.
What do the people want to be referred to as? Let us know.
No.
How do you want to be known?
I guess to make it broad for everybody, you could just say that they are a consumer of the podcast. But yeah,
watchers.
That's not what we're looking for.
Watchers just sounds creepy though. It's like you're like, it's a bit voyeuristic. Yeah, I'm not in on watchers.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this game against the Packers, though, obviously, first and foremost, and how things played out. For a second straight week, the Steelers were able to have their way on the ground, really got the ground game going, which, if you look back, and we've talked about this so many times, that really is the way that the Steelers want to have their offense go. Like, this is the blueprint for this offense, is to get things going on the ground. 166 yards against the Titans, 205 against the Packers. Getting this ground game going has been emphasis 1, 2, 3, 4, et cetera, for this offense to get going. What were your takeaways from what they were able to do on the ground? Is there any one specific reason? Is it really just the insertion of Broderick Jones into the starting lineup that has really kickstarted this entire thing?
I think it's been Broderick Jones and Darnell Washington. I think they've really given them a spark in terms of run blocking that they were missing earlier in the year, especially when you can get those two guys next to each other. I think that's a lot of run blocking there from right tackle and tight end. I also think that Matt Canada is doing a better job of calling the right plays for the right running back. I think we are seeing a much more clearly defined. It's not necessarily role in terms of first down, second down, third down. It's more like these are good Najee Harris plays and these are good Jaylen Warren plays, right? Like I'm not seeing a lot of Jaylen Warren dives into the pile and Najee Harris runs outside zone. Like they seem to have a bit more intentionality about when they're using which back and which plays they're calling for which back. And I think that has coincided with sort of the addition of some more power run stuff that seems to suit Najee Harris really well. And, I think that was one of the things where people are like, oh, look at how much better Jaylen Warren is. I'm like, I think Jaylen Warren's just better at the stuff the Steelers were calling. I think they've expanded their play call sheet in terms of the run offense, and they're specifically looking at things they think they can use to get Najee Harris loose. I think that's the biggest difference in this run game. It's like we've seen some positive stuff from Jaylen Warren here and there, but really the difference is when you get 22 going, also that really makes it a dynamic rushing offense, and I think that's been the thing that's been missing all year. So better blocking, different personnel up front, better play calling, more intentional play calling, and I think that's really been the secret sauce for this run offense. We've seen it come together over the last 4 or 5 weeks. It wasn't one thing, but it's been clicking a couple different things into place over time that really hasn't been a good place right now. I got a hot take here, Smitty.
Okay, I'm here for it.
I don't care what the hell Chuk said. Broderick Jones can't go back to the bench.
What's funny, like I was surprised that you brought that up because I was going to say like that could be a whole different discussion in terms of what he said. You know, you don't
It
necessarily.
doesn't matter what he said. It doesn't matter whether
Yeah.
he deserved to be benched for what he said, didn't deserve
Right.
to be benched for what he said, still should be benched for what he said. Keep saying it, never said it. Doesn't matter. Broderick Jones can't go back to the bench. Period.
And I was just saying, you look at like what the Steelers are doing now and what they want to do on offense goes towards Broderick's strengths. So, like, even if this wouldn't have been said, now that you're seeing what you are from Broderick, one, yeah, there's absolutely no way that you can go back to Chooks, but this is also probably their best 5 in terms of run blocking that they could throw out there, right?
Yeah, it's a better run blocking group. I have not seen now, again, not the world's best. I think Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary are a step up from Tennessee's edge rushers. Okay.
Mhm.
But still not, it's not Crosby or Bosa or Garrett that they've been dealing with. Okay. So we'll see how things go this week. But I don't think there's been a corresponding drop off in the pass protection. Certainly, Broderick had some pass pro issues, but Chooks has been having pass pro issues too. It's not like he was just walling them off over there on the right side and there was all these clean pockets for Kenny Pickett. Now he's scrambling around. He's been scrambling around all year. And so I don't really think they've lost anything in pass protection, and they've certainly gained in run blocking. He's got to stay in the lineup, period.
Yeah, and kind of an extension of that, I put out, and it's one of those things that you may not notice, like watching the game live, but watching it back today, I thought Darnell Washington had his best game as a blocker for sure too. He was just
So
mauling
good.
dudes.
Yeah, and
but
that
like,
was exactly the way it was for me too. Live, I did
yeah,
not notice him as much. And shout out to Nick who did. Nick Faribault was in the press box and kind of pointed him out, and I was like, I haven't seen it, but I'll try to pay closer attention. Rewatched the game late last night. Actually fell asleep in the middle of the fourth quarter and finished it this morning. And was really impressed by the way Darnell Washington. If you go back and you look, all the Steelers' good runs are to the right. And if they aren't to the right, it's because Broderick Jones is pulling left or Darnell Washington is moving left. Like, basically every good run in that game was behind Broderick Jones or Darnell Washington at some point. That's really how much of an impact they had on the running game. It was huge. I thought we always saw that potential from those guys. It's just taken, some time to bring it out. And man, I think it's a real weapon going forward.
I also wanted to point out like the buy-in from the receivers. If you feel like you've seen like Allen Robinson, who I think
Maybe
won on
his
the field a
best
lot.
game.
Yeah, as a blocker, and like despite his size, obviously, like Calvin Austin's going to give you what he can as a blocker too. George Pickens, I thought, had a noticeable couple of blocks in this game, getting out on the perimeter as well. Like the buy-in from the receivers, what you need to have if you're going to stretch this out and get to the perimeter and open things up, is something that I think popped off to me too.
Buy-in from the receivers all over. They're not getting the ball. Like 3 catches for George, 3 catches for Deontay. Are they happy about that? No. Are they making problems about it? No. They're going out there blocking, and even Deontay said after the game, like, hey, keep giving them the ball. That's going to get those safeties down. We're going to get some big plays. They have not taken the next step. There were a lot of one-on-ones on the outside with George and Deontay that they did not take advantage of in the second half of that game. And I understand they were trying to run the clock down, and they probably were looking for some higher percentage stuff if they were going to throw the ball. But you also could have ended the game if you just got one of them free one time, and I think probably Kenny's got to be a little bit more aggressive there to get the ball out and really try to take some more of those shots. But I think that's probably the next step. If you can keep running the ball 160 to 200 yards a game, you're going to get more of those opportunities on the outside. And if you can start to take advantage of them, then you're really going to have defenses tied up in knots.
I guess that's the hope, right? Like I said, I kind of wanted to avoid the Kenny Pickett discussion for this episode, but I guess if you're looking at it, like hoping that you continue to see linear progression, we've now seen this running game come to life. You're hoping, okay, now if they do have to pay attention, stack these boxes, you see a bunch of one-on-ones on the outside. Hopefully natural progression gets us to the point where they are taking advantage of that. But okay, I wanted to switch the conversation to the defense side of things, where for a second straight game, the Steelers have lost an off-ball linebacker for the season. Kwon Alexander, who was wearing the green dot after the loss of Cole Holcomb, tears his Achilles in this one. So now they're going to be without him for the rest of the season. And Landon Roberts, Mark Robinson company, you got to, tip your hat to what they were able to do. That was actually the other takeaway that I had from this game. Was super impressed with what E-Rob did. Having to take on a lot of different responsibilities that he would have not had going into that game, and certainly going into that Tennessee game, like how his role has changed from that point to this point in very short order. I was super impressed with the game that he had against the Packers. But how do you maybe make up for that loss if you can? Is it internal? Is it external? And what are the roles going to look like for these guys going forward?
First, I just want to talk about how darn good E-Rob was in the game. Like, I'm writing stories about him, and I'm looking for pictures of him, and like half of them are like him on the punt team. Like, that was like 3 weeks ago. Now he played. Did he play every snap? He might have played every snap.
Besides one, he was off the field for one snap.
That's hard work, man. That's not easy. It's not his like natural skill set to be covering a lot. I thought he was great in coverage. You saw him run down a screen from behind, saw him, get on the front side of another screen, force, I believe it was Jones back into the play. And then Keanu Benton came up to make the tackle. That was a third down, I think, too. Like, just, he got everything communicated, took responsibility. You saw the one play, it was like comes crashing through the line, like trying to call timeout. So he knew they weren't lined up right. Like, that's a leader. I think I've told the story about E-Rob from training OTAs, where it was like day 3 and he was like lining Cam Hayward up because like Cam was in the wrong gap. You could see that was that guy from day 1. I think he makes the defense around him better. He is not built to be a coverage linebacker. Like, he's, I think I've made this analogy. Like, defensive players are like tools in a toolbox, man. Some things are good for 5 things and some things are good for 1 thing. Like, E-Rob is a sledgehammer. He's really good at 1 thing. He's figured it out, though. He's one of these like hack reacts videos on TikTok where it's like, oh no, you can actually make your sledgehammer into an air compressor. Like, that's what they're doing right now. Okay. Like, and look, I don't know how long it's going to work. I think there are going to be some matchups going forward that are challenging. I don't think Cleveland is one of them. I think Cleveland is a game where you'd be seeing a lot of Elandon Roberts anyway. So great timing for that. Also great timing for Mark Robinson, who's going to have to play a lot. Like, I don't see any way around it. I know they've been trying to bring him along slowly and give him some sheltered reps against some run-heavy teams. It seems like the run defense is ahead of the pass coverage for him, especially zone. I really liked his man-to-man coverage when he was asked to do it in this game against Green Bay, chase guys down the flat. He's fast. Like, it's not like Mark Robinson is slow. It's just about coverage instincts, especially in zone. And that stuff takes, so many reps just to master that he doesn't really have at the position. And so I think they're probably going to need to help those guys. I wrote a big story, Steelers Now Plus subscribers. It's up there right now. Use your promo code Allen10. If you're not a subscriber, you need that to get it. Get 10% off, or like 11.4% off because I stink at math, whatever. And then get it. And it's all laid out there, but I'll kind of give you the highlights here. Is I think you can use Keanu Neal as the linebacker. I don't think it's that different than what he's been doing. I think he's played linebacker before. I think you could see some of using not necessarily Nick Herbig as an inside linebacker, but playing that 3 outside linebacker package that we've seen over the years could work. And, they've got to move some other pieces around if they're going to use Keanu Neal as a linebacker, because right now he's playing every down as a safety. And so is that, Trenton Thompson? Is that Elijah Riley? Is that Patrick Peterson? How does that all fit together? I think it's going to be a tough week for Terrell Austin, but I think they do have the pieces to make this work going forward. They just can't lose anymore. Like, they're out of they're out of depth at this point. Michael Walker is a guy who's on the practice squad who's played. He's got 20 starts. That's pretty much a luxury at this point. I'm not sure how comfortable with the scheme he is or how comfortable with him they are. It's probably why he was not activated for the last game, but I'd expect him to be called up, as well as Tariq Carpenter, just to give him 4 bodies going forward. But yeah, I think it's going to have to be a whole bunch of all the above to make that work. But I think it's possible. I think they have the horses to do it. I like the guys in the room. Like E-Rob and Mark are just great, infectious energy, great leaders, love the game. And so I think like they've got the guys to give it a shot. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, Walker's the one to me that if he can get up to speed, like what he brings to the table kind of lends its hand to what you're looking for in terms of what they've lost. Like I think of him more as a pass coverage linebacker. So if they can get him up to speed and he can get the playbook down, I think that he could be somebody with a helmet on game days that would be very valuable with what they've lost. So hopefully that's the case.
Big change in the discussion too of Minkah Fitzpatrick's back, because that frees up
Right.
Keanu Neal to do all the box safety linebacker stuff, and you can just play with fewer linebackers. I was watching practice the other day, and it's like they're lined up. I'm like, what defense is this? Well, it was Kwon Alexander and Keanu Neal kind of standing next to each other, in behind the defensive line. I was like, well, is that nickel and Keanu's playing linebacker, or is that dime and he's playing box safety? And I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Like it's the same, it's the same guys. Like you can call that a linebacker if you want, but it's the same thing. I talked to Keanu about it after, and he was like, yeah, it's all the same job. Like it doesn't matter what you call it. And so I do think they have some, if Minkah's back, that goes a long way to easing the crunch at linebacker.
Yeah, I was going to ask too, we talked about like what the potential domino effect of that was, but like the 3 outside linebacker stuff was interesting to me too, because we only saw like, and this isn't even with 3 outside linebackers on the field, just in general. Watt and Highsmith were out there pretty much the entire time. I mean, 5 snaps for Golden and 4 for Herbig. Like, what do you think the reasoning behind that was with those guys having less breathers in this one? Because I didn't understand that.
I didn't either, and they weren't very effective. Like I thought that was probably the worst game from the Steelers' edge rushing duo. I don't really know why they didn't. Man, it was funny. TJ after the game, I asked him about the interception on the last play, and he was like, "I was too tired to see what the hell's going on." Like, he's like, "I knew we won, and that was it." Like, I wasn't going over there to fight anybody. I was dead. Like that was, and so like that goes to show you, like TJ Watt's a pretty good shape. The Steelers used all of him that there was to use in that game, and then some. So I think I don't know why that was the choice. I probably would have liked to see more of Herbig and Golden, but if you're not going to do it that way, give me some with Herbig there and move TJ out of that spot and let him freelance a little bit. Can we get a little bit of that like Myles Garrett over the center look? I'd be real interested in that. Just give them some different looks. I felt like it was too much of the same over and over again, and Green Bay was winning more often than not by letting Zach Tom get some help over there and Chip and TJ. And I think they've got to find a way to change things up there a little bit, not be so basic with their outside linebackers.
In terms of the secondary, the domino effect, like getting a guy like Minkah Fitzpatrick back, we've mentioned, let Keanu Neal slide down into the box and take up a lot of more linebacker responsibilities. But like, Elijah Riley, you mentioned Trenton Thompson, a guy that wasn't even active yesterday, and Darius Rush after playing 30 snaps. Were you surprised by that? Was that game plan specific, or like, do you expect him to get a helmet going forward? Like, what do you think's the case there?
Yeah, it just seemed like, Green Bay does not play 4 wide receivers very often, if at all. It was going to be, and they do play those 2 running backs. And I think the Steelers were really concerned about the 2 running back formations and wanted their dime defender to be a safety, someone that could tackle AJ Dillon. And I'm not sure they feel like that about Darius Rush, and he's a cornerback, an outside cornerback. Like that's not really his job. I don't think it's a bad thing that they felt that about him. They were just concerned about, getting spread out with running backs in space and then, throwing short passes and then having Dillon and Jones run guys over in the secondary because the guys that were covering them aren't equipped to tackle them. And so I think they were really concerned about that. I think that's why they went away from Rush. We'll see if he's back for this one. I think Cleveland certainly has, more dangerous receivers, guys you got to account for in a different way than what Green Bay does. So we'll see. I think he'll probably be dressed. I would dress him. It also, again, depends on, is Minkah healthy? Is Keanu Neal fully healthy? He got hurt at the end of that game. He said he's good to go, but is he 100%? We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I think they got a player in Darius Rush, and I think they like him. It was just a matchup thing, and if he's not gonna be the dime defender, then probably doesn't need to have a helmet because James Pierre is a critical special teams guy. Saved the touchdown, I think, probably with a tackle on the kickoff of the opening kickoff of the second half.
Yeah, that's true too. I said I wanted to avoid Kenny discussion, but as we were recording this, I see that we got a YouTube comment from the video that Nick and I did, or the episode Nick and I did on Friday. And I think it's an interesting question, and it's from our boy Tom Brocious here. So of course we got to bring it up. He said, do you think that this is like a risk adverse approach from Mike Tomlin and the Steelers? I wonder if it's caution that is holding Kenny back at this point. Somebody threw that idea out there somewhere, and I was curious what your thoughts would be.
I don't know that it's from Mike Tomlin. I mean, I think, look, nobody wants to turn the ball over. Kenny doesn't want to turn the ball over. He doesn't need a coach to tell him not to turn the ball over. And, I think it's more about Kenny just not being fully comfortable with the reads that he's making and getting through his progressions quickly enough to find that guy. I just think a lot of times he knows, okay, this is probably going to be open. And if it looks like it's kind of open, he throws it and quickly, and so, if you look at like his time to throw, it's kind of high, but it's super skewed because of his ability to extend what he gets out of the pocket. Like the throws where he stays in the pocket, he's really just kind of locked in on one guy, waiting for him to get open and throwing it. We're not seeing him like go through multiple progressions a lot and find the second or third option. And so, the coverage is going to dictate where that first option is. A lot of the time it's going to be, something easy to the outside. And so, I just think it's mostly about Kenny's development. I don't think it's about Tomlin. Kenny doesn't want to turn the ball over. And that's why he's making those throws that I think he's more comfortable making. But I don't think it's being enforced upon him from on high or anything like that.
Well, and that's an interesting point too. And this is the last thing that I want to talk about is we've talked about the turnovers. The Steelers don't do it. They create a bunch of them. As they sit here at 6-3, it seems like that's kind of been the reason that they're here right now. They don't give up 6. Teams can gain all the yards that they want as long as the Steelers keep them out of the end zone. That seems to be their MO and kind of the way that the NFL is trending. Bend, don't break, give up 3 instead of 6, create turnovers when you have the opportunities. And that's, I think, why the Steelers are sitting here at 6-3, despite the yardage discrepancy, despite the point differential in total. Alan, what is your thought on this? Is this sustainable for the Steelers going forward?
Yes. This is not just sustainable. This is the entire theory of their defense. This is the way they want to play defense. They don't care about the yards. Get all the yards you want. Hold teams to field goals in the red zone. Get off the field on 3rd and long. Force turnovers. That's the principles of this defense. That is how it's supposed to work. It is impossible to keep good offenses from gaining yards. You can shut down bad offenses, but it is impossible to keep good offenses from gaining yards. This is the only way to defend the Patrick Mahomeses of the world, is that you have to just minimize the damage when they get in the red zone, force turnovers, and get them in 3rd and longs, and then get off the field when you do get them in 3rd and long. That's the way they built this defense. They have done plenty of things to not like Keanu Benton's playing nose tackle, but they didn't draft him to be a nose tackle, right? They drafted him because he's like, they hope like eventually Larry Ogunjobi's replacement or Cam Hayward's replacement or whatever. Okay. Mm-hmm. They don't really care about nose tackle. They haven't cared about, the run stopping part of the inside linebacker position has been pretty much an afterthought. It's been a desperate search for another Ryan Shazier at that position, right? They gave away Terrell Edmonds because they wanted a guy in DeMonte KZ who could play the ball better. Basically, that's the only thing that KZ does better than Terrell Edmonds. They designed this defense to get takeaways. They went out and got Patrick Peterson. He led the league in he was one of the most prolific interceptors of the football in the league last year. Like that is who they want to be. They want to keep you on the field, keep a lid on it, keep the ball in front of you, make you take a bunch of snaps to score because we think we'll get the ball before you do it. That is the entire theory of their defense. And I think it works. I don't see any reason to suspect that it won't continue to work. There are going to be teams that beat them, but I don't think it's because that is a flawed plan.
Now, and how this might seem like a stupid question, but like obviously you have to have the personnel to do that, in your opinion, right? Like, so it's like you can't really afford to have Water Highsmith go down, or Cam Hayward, obviously, who has already missed time, or Minkah's missing 4 games right now. So like, how much of this is the personnel as opposed to the scheme itself?
Well, yeah, I mean, they're doing that. They've played 2 series with all of Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, and Minkah Fitzpatrick on the field at the same time. That's it.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
so like those are your big guys on defense, and Cam is not 100%, even though he's back. Not 100%.
Now, what's he played, like 55% of the snaps and 58 or something?
I don't know, but he's clearly not 100%. Yeah, I mean, look, you're paying Alex Highsmith like big. That's why you pay like teams. If you go look at like analytics guys, they'll be like, oh, why do the Steelers pay all this money to Minkah Fitzpatrick? Safeties aren't worth it. Blah blah blah. I'm like, Minkah Fitzpatrick's worth it. Safeties aren't worth it. Minkah Fitzpatrick's not worth it. He's a different guy. He gets the ball. He makes splash. That's why I harped on it all this beginning of the season that he wasn't doing it, because that's why he's there. Like, I thought they were making a mistake in the way they were deploying him because they were minimizing his ability to impact the game in that way. And that is the most important thing. And not real, like the yards don't matter. I don't care how many yards the defense gives up. Get off the field when you get them in 3rd and long, create turnovers, hold them to field goals in the red zone, and you will win. Like that's the whole recipe. And I think it works. Like they've got to keep after it, but I don't think that is like, do we think that the interceptions are by accident? Like, I don't understand the implication that this is unsustainable. Like, what are we watching the Steelers do that we're like, oh, well, they couldn't do that all year? I don't know.
I don't know either. And that's the thing, to me, it's not necessarily like a short body of work or a small sample size. Like, I feel like they've kind of been playing like this for multiple seasons in a row now.
Second in the league in sacks in 3 of the last 4 years. They've been 1st or 2nd league in interceptions in 3 of the last 4 years. We should expect them to be near the top of the league in sacks and interceptions again this year. Like, that's the whole design of what they have going on here. It's not like it's accidental or luck or fluky. Like, that's what they're trying for. And they've been able to get it. They've got great defensive players. I don't see anybody arguing that TJ Watt and Cam Hayward and Alex Highsmith and Minkah Fitzpatrick aren't any good. So if you have players that are acknowledged as great, and you have this as your game plan, and you've been able to, within that game plan, do this over and over and over again, why are we saying they can't keep doing it? I don't know where this came from.
I don't know either, Alan. Maybe somebody in the comments can tell us where it came from, and we can get some ideas.
Do they continue to win games when Kenny Pickett only throws for 125 yards? Now, like, they're okay. Like, that's not sustainable. But the defense, they're 10th in scoring. Yes, that's absolutely, like, that's a good defense. That's comfortably above average. I think they can be even better. Like, get the whole crew together on this. I mean, they're not gonna, because now they're never gonna play with Holcomb and Alexander, but get something close to the whole crew together, and let's see how good they really can be. Yes, this is a very safe, and they have important pieces of this defense. Like, Neal's new to the team. Alexander and Holcomb and Roberts were new to the team. Benton is a rookie. Porter is a rookie. Peterson was new to the team. Like, this is a defense that we should have expected to get better as the year went on. Like, that was a reasonable expectation, to think that a defense with a bunch of new guys, even though they were talented and experienced, and a couple of good rookies, like, they were going to continue to play better. We've seen it from Joey. We've seen it from Keanu Benton, who had a great game on Sunday. Yes. Like, I think they're going to keep getting better. This defense is really good. They can continue to be really good. I don't think any part of what they've done is unsustainable.
I don't either. But again, I'm curious if people do think that it is, what the argument for that is. So let us know in the comments what you think about that. Or, as we always love to hear, just leave us a compliment on the show. Tell us how good we look. Let us know you agree with us. Those types of things.
Listen, you can tell us how good the show is and how smart we are. But listen, start talking about how good we look, it gets a little suspicious. Like, I know that ain't the case. Like, that's...
Anyways, Alan,
Smitty, you know how you know I know a lot about football? Because they put this face on TV. That's how you know I know a lot about football, because that's the only reason.
Yeah, for the final word, obviously doing that. But Alan, other than when you're on there, tell the people where they can find you.
SteelersNow.com, at PGH Steelers Now, at @Saunders_PGH is my social media account. Like, subscribe on YouTube. We got to get to another big round number. I got stuff going in the mail. I don't know, this week. It's in bags here from our celebration. Forgive my tardiness, but yeah, we're getting that out to you, and you're getting a nice little letter and all kinds of stuff. So hopefully those should be on the way shortly.
10,191 as we sit here right now. Yeah, let's continue to see that number climb up. But yeah,
and
hey,
I saw that our friends at All Steelers, Noah and Steven, got to 20,000 this week, and they ripped off our celebration, which I'm totally okay with, because I don't care at all, but good for them. And now we've got it. Now the gauntlet has been laid down, though, is that we've got to catch those guys and get to 20K.
Yeah. And you can help us out by doing that, by liking, subscribing, hit that notification bell. Tell somebody about the show as well so they can do the same. Leave us a 5-star review if you are listening somewhere else, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. I'm Zachary Smith, PGH, for Alan Saunders and myself. We'll see you next time. Until then, bye-bye.